Balance sounds mature until you realize it's usually just fear in a suit. You've been telling yourself you need balance, work-life balance, training balance, nutrition balance. The word sounds intelligent, responsible, controlled. But notice what actually happens when you start using it. You don't get sharper. You don't get more dominant. You just get comfortable. Balance isn't a standard. It's permission to stay where you are. Welcome back to Iron Suits, where strength wears the crown. I am your host, Marwan Killu. And today's episode is Balance is the language of men who won't choose. Here's the law. Standards create results. Balance protects comfort. And comfort always wins unless something forces it to lose. You already know this from business. You didn't build your company by balancing effort with rest. You didn't scale by keeping things reasonable. You didn't get respected by protecting your energy. You got there by refusing to be moderate, refusing to be average. You worked weekends. You took calls at night, at midnight even. You made decisions before you felt ready. And it worked. So now you look at your body and you think, I just need to balance things out. It's a little more sleep, a little less stress, better recovery, smarter training, balance. But here's what you're actually thinking when you look in the mirror. I used to be the kind of person who could will this into place. And that's where it breaks. That's where this breaks. Because your body doesn't care about balance. It cares about load, adaptation, and signal clarity. Biology only rewards stress it can measure. Balance is a psychological feeling. Adaptation is a biological response. They're not the same thing. Let me say that again. Balance is how you feel about your effort. Adaptation is what your body does with it. They're not the same thing. You can feel unbalanced and be completely unadapted. You can feel balanced and be completely unchanged. You can feel chaotic and be progressing faster than ever. The feeling of balance has zero correlation with transformation. None. Nada. And that's the uncomfortable part, because once you see that, you realize balance isn't neutral. It's a choice. The feeling of balance has no correlation with physical transformation. None. But you've been conditioned to believe it does. Here's why that matters. When you pursue balance, you're not pursuing a result. You're pursuing the absence of tension. You want to feel like you're doing enough without it hurting. You want to train hard, but not too hard. Eat clean, but not obsessively. Sleep well, but not at the cost of productivity. You want transformation without destabilization, and that's a problem. Transformation is destabilization. You know this in business. You didn't scale by keeping everything comfortable. You hired people before you could afford them. You took on clients before your systems were ready. You moved before you were certain. You accepted instability as a cost of growth. But with your body, you want it different. You want progress that doesn't disrupt anything. You want muscle without soreness, leanness without hunger, strength without fatigue. Or, as my business coach used to say, everybody wants to. You want the push-ups without, rather the pegs without the push-ups. Basically, you want the outcome without the state change. That's what balance actually is. It's a refusal to let your body demand anything from you that your calendar cannot accommodate. And I get it. Your life is unstable enough. You're managing people, markets, pressure, deadlines. The last thing you want is your body adding more variables. So you frame training as something that should stabilize you, something that fits, that doesn't ask too much, that keeps you centered. But your body doesn't stabilize you. It reflects you. If your training feels balanced, it means the signal is too weak to register. If your nutrition feels balanced, it means you're not actually changing anything. If your recovery feels balanced, it means you're not pushing hard enough to need it. Balance is what you get when the input is too low to matter. Comfort doesn't build men. It preserves them. You don't say this out loud, but you feel it. You train 3 times a week. You feel pretty good. You're not sore. You're not exhausted. But nothing is changing. You eat clean most days. You don't restrict. You don't binge. But your body looks the same. You sleep 7 hours. You don't feel wrecked. But you also don't feel powerful. And here's a thought you had last week. Excuse me. That you haven't told anyone. What if I've already had my best body? That's the moment a man quietly lowers his own ceiling. Here's the truth. You're not pursuing balance because it works. You're pursuing it because it doesn't ask you to choose. Every real standard asks you to choose. Revenue over comfort, hiring over control, speed over certainty. You've made those choices 1,000 times in business, but with your body, you want both. You want strength and flexibility, muscle and mobility, leanness and sustainability. You want every quality at once, all the time, without trade-offs. That's not balance. That's fantasy. A standard forces prioritization. Right now, what matters most? Strength, then you accept some stiffness. Leanness, then you accept some hunger. Endurance, then you accept some slowness in other areas. A real standard says this before that. A real standard says this before that. Balance says all of it, softly, forever. And that's why it fails. Not because you're undisciplined, not because you're lazy, but because you're trying to optimize for a feeling instead of a result. Let me show you where this breaks. You're in a high pressure quarter, deals closing, team issues, travel. Your training balance collapses. You miss sessions. You eat poorly. You don't sleep. And you tell yourself, I'll get back to balance next month. But next month is something else. Another quarter, another crisis, another priority. So balance becomes the thing you're always returning to, but never actually in. It's not a state, it's a story you tell yourself about the future. A standard doesn't collapse under pressure. It clarifies. If your standard is strength, you know what to protect when time is short. If your standard is leanness, you know what to prioritize when everything else is chaotic. A standard doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires a clear hierarchy. But balance has no hierarchy. It treats everything as equally important. So when pressure comes, you have no framework for what to sacrifice. You just sacrifice everything and then call it balance. You know what to do on a Sunday night when you're planning the week. You open your calendar, see the chaos and think, maybe next week. Here's what you actually want. You want to feel in control of your body without your body controlling your time. You want results without rigidity. You want transformation that doesn't cost you optionality. And I'm telling you, that doesn't exist. You can have a great body, but it will ask something of you. Not everything, but something specific, something non-negotiable, something you protect even when it's inconvenient. That's not balance, that's a standard. And standards don't feel comfortable. They feel clarifying. You don't wonder if you're doing enough. You know. You don't negotiate with yourself about whether today counts. The standard tells you. Most of the men I work with come to me talking about balance. They want to train smarter, not harder. They want sustainable systems. They want something that fits into their life. And I tell them the same thing that I'm telling you. Your life is not stable enough for balance to work. You need a standard that survives instability. Because here's what actually happens. You set a balance plan, 4 sessions a week, 8 hours of sleep, whole foods, no extremes. Week 1, perfect. Week 2, travel. Week 3, deal pressure. Week 4, family thing. Week 5, you're back to wondering why nothing is working. But if you had a standard, one clear, uncompromising priority, you would know exactly what to protect. 3 sessions, non-negotiable. Protein target, every day, no exceptions. 7 hours minimum, even if it means saying no to something else. One thing held always. And that's what survives chaos. Balance survives nothing because it's not designed to survive. It's designed to make you feel like you're trying. And you don't need to try. You need to decide. What is the one physical quality you refuse to compromise on? Not the one that sounds best, not the one that's easiest, the one that if you had it, it would change how you see yourself. That's your standard. Everything else is negotiable. Most men can't answer that question because they've been taught that wanting one thing intensely is unbalanced. That real maturity is wanting everything moderately. But moderate desires produce moderate results. And you didn't build what you built by being moderate. So why are you applying moderation to your body? Balance is not a virtue, it's a hedge. A way to stay busy without committing. A way to feel productive without being accountable. And the worst part, it works just enough to keep you from changing. You feel like you're doing something. You're training. You're eating better. You're trying. But trying is not the same as transforming. Transformation requires a standard. A line you don't cross. A thing you don't compromise. A priority you protect even when it's uncomfortable. That's what you did in business. You didn't balance your way to revenue. You decided what mattered and you refused to let anything else take priority. And you can do the same thing with your body. But first, you have to stop pretending balance is a strategy. It's not. It's comfort layer. And comfort is expensive. It costs you the body you actually want. And you already know what happens if you don't change this. 5 years from now, same conversation, different excuse. So here's a question. What are you willing to make non-negotiable? Not someday, now. Because balance will always be available. It's the default. It's what happens when you don't choose. A standard is what happens when you do. That's all I got for you today. I hope this episode that was helpful for you. If it was, make sure you share it with another leader who is always looking for balance, who's a bit too comfortable. Leave me a review on iTunes. Tell me how awesome I am or how shit you think my podcast is. I don't care. No, I'm joking. A positive review would be appreciated. Make sure you subscribe to get notification when a new episode hits live. And you can follow me on socials. I keep forgetting these last bit. Follow me on socials. I am on Facebook under Marwan Killu. Marwan Killu Fitness is also, or rather, let's start again. Follow me on Facebook under Marwan Killu. Follow me on LinkedIn under Marwan Killu Fitness. And if you want to watch this episode live, you can watch it on YouTube as well under Marwan Killu. All right, until next time, have a great day and I'll talk to you soon.